Welcome to another episode of Grief in the Raw. My name is Kelli Holloway, and I have the privilege to sit before you in conversation today as we journey through life, yet we grieve, we heal. And I am so privileged to have this conversation with my next guest, who is the incredibly gifted and talented JoDavi. He's often called Mr. Maestro, and I want to introduce him to you. But before I give you his full bio, welcome, JoDavi. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kelli. Thank you for having me on this. This is very special for me.
Yes. Y'all, I am anticipating such a full and rich conversation. I hope you have tissues close by. I do, and I want to encourage you to as well, because as I have learned of JoDavi's story and his heart, I've just seen so much healing that has transpired just from him elevating his voice. And y'all know that's my campaign, right? Like, if we're going to get through these seasons of change and get through these seasons of grief, we have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And so JoDavi does that in such a dynamic way. And so I'm so full with knowing that you're going to get to know more about his journey, more about his story. And I'm hoping that you will take just a bit of his grief practice and acquire it as your own. This is what this is all for. So again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelli.
Here is his official bio, right? His music, what many describe as a symphonic soul, blends gospel, funk, and R&B richness. JoDavi has opened for Grammy Award-winning artists like India Arie and Anthony Hamilton, and he has released more than a dozen albums and performed around the world, from New York to Paris to South Africa. His sound and his voice is international. JoDavi is entering a very different season of his life and music after losing his wife earlier this year. His sound has deepened with a lot more intimacy with this exchange, not only in the U.S., but also giving honor to his late wife's South African influences and roots. Beyond the stage, JoDavi is a father, he is a storyteller, he is an advocate, and now he hones in even more so to this voice of love, loss, and healing. Please welcome JoDavi.
Thank you so much, Kelli. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah. So I want to start, and we typically start with the grief scale when we're coming to the table to talk. I do this grief scale not only for you and I, but anyone that is listening or watching. I think it's always a good idea to check in with how are we feeling before we start the trek between this heaviness of grief. So if you had to give your grief scale, assign it a number between 1 to 10. 1 is I'm really not affected by grief today. 10 is it's very heavy and it's hard for me to even lift my head up through it. What number would you assign and why?
So right now I would assign it as, I think, a 7, because I'm measuring it by the worst couple of days I had, which was just before the 2-month period. That right now is my 10. So right now the past couple of days have been a little bit higher, and why? And honestly, I don't know exactly why. I knew why on Father's Day, and I knew why on Mother's Day wasn't as hard of it, but Father's Day was, because that's when she would celebrate me, and Mother's Day more for the boys. But these past couple of days have been extra. So yesterday I would have said 8. Today it's kind of gone back down a little bit. I think part of my brain still thinks that it's like a joke. It's like, all right, that's great. Joke's over, baby. You can come on out.
Right. Really
funny. Haha. We moved places and we, left our house and all that stuff. We can laugh about this, but I think more of me is realizing that this is a real thing and it's a forever kind of thing. So, yeah. So I would say that's part of why it's a 7 now. Yeah.
I'm so encouraged by you keeping stock, right? Of even saying today it's a 7, yesterday was an 8, last week was a 10, right? And being gentle with yourself, that sometimes it's going to change and you don't even know why it's that number. There's a lot of wisdom in that, in knowing that some days we're not going to know why we feel a certain way. All we know is we miss who we miss and we want them back. I honor and hold space for your 7. Today for me, I'm probably at, I would say I'm at a 4.
Okay.
I now am getting ready to enter into 3 years without my mom. And that just seems like such a long time not to have a conversation with her, or to be hugged by her, or to even drink up her energy and she drink up mine. Today on my drive, after I got to my destination, I was parked. Something that I kind of do for my brain balance is I kind of position my face toward the sun and I close my eyes. And if you've ever done something like this, you know that there's a point where the radiance of the sun gets so bright. If you're like situated toward it, it gets so bright that it almost turns red a little bit, like behind your eyelids. And so in doing that, I imagine that she's kissing me, right? And so I did that today, just let the tears flow, because it's just another random day that I miss her touch. And so if there's anything that I can do within my mind body to make sure that I stay connected, I'm just turning my face toward the sun. But that also is a testament to God that I'm going to keep looking up. I'm going to get closer to you in my walk as I grieve. And so to me, that has become a grief practice of mine that I offer to you, or I offer to anyone, because it does make me feel a little lighter. But the days are just, they ebb and flow. They ebb and flow. I encourage every listener, every watcher to take stock of how you feel. We are holding space for you, because we also know that grief is not just a sign to the loss of a loved one. It's also a loss of a job, a loss of a dream, the changes that are occurring in our world right now. Like, my goodness, I know we'll talk a little bit about that, but it's so heavy, right? And so some days it's hard to even bring your head up from it, but checking in is always the best practice.
Absolutely.
So thank you for allowing us to check in. So before we talk about the loss, I want to talk about the love, because the love remains. I want to know your wife's name. I'd love for you to share with us how you met and what made your bond so special and unique.
So her name was Olga Mishway. When I met her, she was Olga Mishway. And I was living in California. She was living in South Africa at the time. The way that we met, our first correspondence was Facebook Messenger. We met basically on Facebook. But the connection was deep because her father is a pastor. My father is a pastor. And her father, when apartheid fell in South Africa, he was part of drafting South Africa's constitution. He was one of the drafters.
Wow. And
he started a political party. The main party is the African National Congress, ANC. He had started a smaller party called the ACDP, the African Christian Democratic Party. And so he got on our radar because of some of the work that he was doing. He does a lot of work in the South African communities, and he does a lot of work between South Africa and Israel, and that was where we converged. So we discovered her father's work, and she was working with her dad. I wasn't quite working with my dad in more of his political stuff, but I was doing a lot of music with my dad. My dad and I, he taught me how to play, he taught me how to write, all that kind of stuff. So I was like his co-producer, and so there was a little bit of overlap. And I remember he had a Zoom, or maybe it was back then when people were using Skype. He had a Skype meeting with her father, and then afterwards he had posted something, and I looked and I saw a picture of her father and her, and that was my first time seeing her. And I asked my dad, because I walked by and he was on his computer, and I was like, who is she, Dad? She's cute. And my dad looked at me and he said, she's out of your league is who she is. So, and he was absolutely right. I mean, I definitely, it took me about a little over a year to get her to notice me. We were friends, but she was a very focused person. She was a world traveler already. She was a speaker already. I mean, she was already doing so many things. And so, yeah, it took me some time, and by the time.
I love that you were persistent.
Oh yes,
That's the sign of something great, being persistent.
Absolutely.
And the wooing. There's
a wooing element. Yeah.
There is. There's got to be.
And you know what? There's a difference between wooing and being led on, right? Being strung along. Like,
yes.
She wasn't stringing me along. She genuinely was like, no, I'm sorry. I'm just not even in that mindset. Like, that's not where I am. She was 9 years older than me. So there was, for her, she was not even thinking about me, like who is this boy? Like, why is he trying to talk to me? And, so it took some time, and I almost gave up after a while. There are a couple of different times when, there's one time when I actually stepped to her and I told her that I had feelings for her, and, I'd be interested in like taking the next step in our relationship. And she told me a few things. One thing she told me was she doesn't date. She said, I told God a long time ago that the next man that I'm with is my husband. And she had decided that after, she had a very ugly divorce a few years before we met, and all that other stuff. I mean, that was just a whole different thing. And so that's where she was. And so she was content where she was. And she said, yeah, that's not where I am. Plus, do you know how old I am? Like, all that stuff. She was like, here's this list. Like,
the reasons.
Exactly. And it's funny, Kelly, of all the reasons she gave me, the one thing that she said she believes in the sandwich method when you're critiquing. It's like you have some good stuff, and you have the things that need to be worked on, and then you end on a good note. So the thing she said toward the end that I'll never forget was, I'm sorry, you're really nice, you're really good looking, but like, I just don't think it'll work between us. I held on to that good looking thing. I was like, that's all I needed. All I needed was just a little bit of something.
You're like,
she said, you're good looking. All right, there we go. We can work with just that. Like, that's a good place to start. She finds me attractive. Like, that's all I wanted to hear. And so, I tried for a little while. And then after some time, I got discouraged because she was, after that conversation, that's her personality, that was done for her. So she was like, we talked about it. We're done. We're friends. And so, I was at a place where, I had almost moved on. And as a matter of fact, we were both in DC together for a conference, and when I asked her this, she confirmed, yes, I did do this. She tried to set me up with another friend of hers. Like, she tried to put us together. This is my friend.
So not only did she friend zone you,
but
now she's trying to give you the okie doke.
Exactly. Like, here's somebody else. Like, you guys are both artists. She's really cool. And it almost worked. Like, she was cool. Like, we talked and stuff. And it got to a point where I was getting discouraged, and I thought, maybe I should just explore something with this new girl. And I was this close to taking that step. And I hadn't told anyone. No, I hadn't told anyone about this or anything. I was just kind of going through this on my own. But my father just felt to talk to me. So this is like a year and a half after I've first met her. And he asked me how things were going with Olga. And I said, yeah, not that great. I don't know I'm not sure what she wants. And he said, okay, well, I told you that she's out of your league, first of all. That's the first thing. But then he said, but that is what I meant though, was that it doesn't mean that you can't try, that you shouldn't try for that. It just means you have to know that you're punching above your weight. You have to understand that, you know what I mean? You have to understand that when you're doing it. And so then, after that, I decided to just give everything some time. I took about a week to pray, and I think I even fasted a couple of days, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to talk to Olga. I said, hey, can we FaceTime? She said, sure. And I didn't know what I was going to say to her. I didn't know what I was going to say until that morning I woke up, and we were supposed to FaceTime in like 30 minutes. And I was like, Lord, I still don't know what I'm going to say. She already told me no. She already said no. And then in that moment, the Lord reminded me that she said the next man that she's with is going to be her husband. And that's when I realized that you're going to have to tell her that I'm willing to be your husband, which is that's exactly what I told her. And it took her aback, and she had to take some time to now she had to pray about things. But it only took her a few days. After that, we had began our long distance courtship. So we called it from there. So from friends to like pretty like on the track to engagement was like right there.
And I need for my men folk to listen and listen good. Because did you hear that the wooing included prayer, fasting, seeking God first before you seek after that wife that is your good thing?
Right.
And without that prayer and petition to God, you would not have heard that's what she needs to hear. You're not, you got to listen. This is what she said.
Right.
And also that godly counsel from your father. Like that, people think the wooing is, flashing this or take her out on this date or pay for that. And it can include some of those components, but that ain't it.
No, that's not it.
Baby, if you are looking for your companion, that does not equate. That math is not mathing. So I'm so glad that you slow walked us through it. Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
An important. We needed that. That just blessed someone.
Thank you. And I think it also, and above all, it has to include commitment. You have to. Your intention actually has to be to make this a forever thing. You know what I mean? It's not just about doing the right things, because that actually makes it worse. You do all the right things, but you don't have any intention of committing. Well, now you're just setting her up to really hurt her. I mean, that's all that is. And that was, you know what? And that kind of set the tone for our marriage, because there were lots of times when we would have, whether it was arguments where we couldn't get past a certain point, or just tough conversations where God would just remind me of something that she said. And sometimes she would even forget. And I would go, oh, that's okay. That is this. Cool. Okay. So then I said, okay, babe, is it? And it would make things better. So that was the way that started, was kind of the way that those next 7 years of marriage, and then 8 years in total, how it went, and God he's faithful in that. Like it's James that said, you ask him for wisdom, God will give it. Like he gives it liberally. Like you ask for it, he has it, and
it's free.
It's free. He's like, please, what is it? There's a proverb, wisdom cries aloud in the streets. You know what I mean? Which means that like no one's really looking for it. Like, if wisdom is a woman crying in the streets, that means no one's really wanting her, and so every time I'd ask God, give me some wisdom, Lord, please give me wisdom for this. He gave it to me in that same way,
Yeah. So as we transition and you're requesting of God wisdom in your season of marriage, which sounds just like a glorious white blur of a time, even in trials and tribulations, because that's what we do as married people. We're shifting, and our life is merging with their life, and it's it's messy, but it's pure and it's beautiful. And I'm so glad you had that time as you're asking God for wisdom then in marriage, and asking for wisdom now as a widower. Take me there in terms of, now you're in a different season. Yeah. You all are on different paths and different journeys. What has surprised you the most about grief and this time from January to now, whether it's showing up in how you feel or how it continues to unfold? What rises to the surface for you first in the surprising things of grief and losing Olga?
One of the things that never ceases to surprise me so far has been how seeing God's hand in all of this before she died, like in retrospect. Even you just said, like, we're on separate journeys. There's one of the last tracks of the last EP that I wrote was called Same Separate Journey, and it was after this revelation I had about us we're walking together, but we're still on two different paths.
Yeah. And
at the time when I wrote it, I was like, oh, this is a great song. I like it. It's solid. Da, da, da. Now I'm realizing that, no, that was one of the things that God was using to prepare me for this, because we really are on a separate journey. Like, that is the song. Even some of the words I used in one of my verses only really makes more sense right now. And so there's that. There are several things that God has done in that our last year of marriage, that if he hadn't have done it, I'd be struggling with guilt on top of the grief. And I'm really grateful to say that I don't really have any guilt. I have little regrets. You know, I have like, I wish I had cuddled with her in the hospital. She really wanted me to climb into bed with her. I was afraid of pulling her wires. I was just like, baby, you have stuff hooked. I don't know if I can do that. I was like, we'll do that when we get home, you know? And so I'm like, I wish I would have, but nothing like I should have treated her better. I should have, you know, nothing. And some of the things that would have even been a question to me, like for instance, she had her last trip to South Africa. She was already not doing well. And I really didn't want her to go, but she really felt like she needed to go. And so I said, okay, well, if you go, at least get a doctor's appointment while you're out there. And so she did. And she went to a doctor in South Africa who diagnosed her with it wasn't just lupus. It was actually a list of things, including depression. And he hooked her up to these machines, and he would ask her questions about different things. And based on her body's responses, he could tell that she was in an intense amount of stress and anger. But the problem was that her mind, it wasn't computing up here. So she really thought she was okay. And the doctor kept asking her, like, are you sure you're not angry? And she was saying, I'm fine. What, you know, I don't know why you keep asking me that. I'm okay. And so that's when he told her that your mind and your body aren't connected. So she, normally after her appointment, she would call me and we'd talk. But this time she texted all this to me. And then the last thing she texted was, one of the things that we talked about that didn't put my stress levels off the charts was family. And she was like, that was whenever he talked about you and the boys, that's when things were normal. Because, and now looking back on that text, I definitely would have been like, what if was I adding to her stress? Was I adding to her anger, all that stuff? And so the fact that, because I forgot, she said, I just happened to stumble upon that text, you know, maybe a month after. And I was like, oh, wow, she did say that right there. She did say that. And just things like that. So like, it's like God was setting things up and also dealing with me on some things that, you know, there, you know, in marriages, there are recurring arguments sometimes, or things that like you always clash on, and things that would always make me really upset, and vice versa, things I'd do to make her upset. There was a intersection point last year where God had to challenge me to say, okay, I really know that this really irks you, I know, but what if this never changes? And I was like, well, I mean, I'm not gonna leave her. I mean, it's just irritating. You know what I mean? I'm not, you know, sure. Like, and so it's okay. Well, I need you to let it go then. And I said, okay, well, I need you to help me do that, because I can't do that. Like, I really can't. And he did. And our last year was so smooth in a lot of ways that she even noted several times, and she would say thank you. And so I just thought that, man, we're just having a great year. This is great. We've had a turning point, and all this time God was he was removing things from me so that when she died, I wouldn't be crushed underneath all this. I should have let that go. Oh, man, I really shouldn't have, you know, all that stuff, you know. And so I am grateful for. As much as this hurts, I think it'd be a lot more difficult if I was dealing with guilt as well.
Yeah. Just your openness to, it's giving obedience. It's giving coverage. It's giving, you're connected to the source. And I pray for those that are not connected, but I also, not a but, and also pray for those that are not connected, in hopes that they get connected, because staying connected is the way through, right? There's no avenue through if you're not staying connected to that source, and having an open heart to stay connected and say, okay, Lord, I know this is a stronghold for me, but work on that. And then his allowance and his coverage to work on it with you, so that that year could be smooth. That's a gift. And if you weren't connected to the source, you might not be able to view it as the gift that it is. And that's really important. That's an important piece that I don't want anyone to miss, that when you stay connected to the source, you will not mistake gifts for challenges. Like they're only gifts. That's what he offers up is endless gifts.
Absolutely.
And so I'm so glad that you had that, and you had that time. in my introduction of you and me shooting my shot to you, right? So like I have been following and supporting and resharing and all of that, but then I said I gotta talk to this man because even the way that you share publicly what goes on privately, right? And there's some things that maybe we will never see, but there's just a quality in a lot of your posts begin, I lost my wife 4 months ago. I lost my wife 6 months ago. I lost my wife 7, and so taking us on this journey that you didn't have to do that, right? Like you didn't have to do that, but being obedient and letting people know that there are stages to it,
Right.
even though some of those stages of grief, I always put that in quotes because it is not linear.
No, it's
and
not.
I don't know about you, but at the onset, I thought, okay, I'm going to spend this much time in sadness. I'm going to feel this much time in the bargaining. I'm going to feel, all of that. And it's none of that.
Nope.
It is just this cataclysm of it's always there. It's always present. And at any given moment, the heat can be turned up in any direction. And so the fact that you offer that up so freely, like we're talking about the gifts that God gives freely, you are giving a gift to the world, whether you realize it or not, by leading with your heart and saying, this is how I'm feeling today. Check in tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to be the same. But when you do that, like it gives people this entrance into the mystery of grief, of what do you do. And everybody's looking for a toolkit or a to-do, and it's not about that. It's about knowing day in and day out that it's going to ebb and it's going to flow. But the more you share, the better others are for it, and so are you. I'm hoping, I'm feeling, and so. The question in that, because I remember seeing that in one of your newsletters, and before we end, we're going to get all of your, so that everybody can be tapped in, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But in one of your newsletters, you wrote about experiencing that bargaining stage of grief, and that you had that for the first time, and you historically had not really understood what bargaining was about. And when I read that, I said, I don't know that I've had that bargaining, and I don't think I understand it either. So, when did you realize what that looked like for you, what the bargaining stage, and how has that informed your healing journey overall?
Yeah. Man, I think I realized that about 2 or 3 months in, I couldn't accept at all what had happened. Like most of me hadn't accepted it at all. And I think my brain was somehow trying to find a way that to like bring her back somehow. Like, and even as I say it now, I'm like, wow, I was really in a different place. And I was like, okay, Lord, you can do anything, and I started listing things. I was like, there's all these people who you brought back from, to life. And I was like, you know what? I was like, and both in the New and in the Old Testament, like even just, Elijah brought back the widower's son, He wasn't even Jesus. He was just a regular person, like, and he did it. So, I mean, come on, God, like,
right.
And I remember even having dreams where I would be talking to her, but when I would see her, I would try to change what happened. Okay, listen, don't go to South Africa, just stay home, and just all that stuff. I would be, and I wake up and I realized that it was a dream, or maybe it was actually her, but my brain was still trying to figure out a way to fix this. And so, and I kept just making up scenarios. Okay. So here's the deal. Like if you can bring her back, then, whatever I need to do, I don't care, I'll give up all this stuff. And that's when, at some point I was talking to both my parents, and I just remember my dad saying, it's interesting because this is the closest loss I've ever had. So, I don't always know what's okay, what's not okay. And for me, I just share anyway. Like, even if it's not okay, it's just where I am,
Yes,
and,
yes.
And I remember my dad saying, that's fine. That it's this just your brain's way of healing itself. Like you're going through scenarios. Eventually you'll come to a conclusion on your own that, okay, she's not coming back, but you can't. And that's when I realized that, as coming on from the other side, someone who has a friend who's grieving, that it doesn't help to give them the conclusion right away if they're not ready for that. You know what I mean? You can't just say, oh, you'll like people like early on, people would say, oh, she's all around you guys. And I was like, I don't want her all around us. Don't tell me that, right? She needs to be right here. And we're supposed to grow old together and watch our kids have kids and talk to each other. We're supposed to be in bed together, like all that stuff. Like there's a whole element that's missing. Don't tell me that she's all around. Like now I'm in a better place to receive that. Then I was like, no, she was just here. Don't tell me now she's all around you like that. And so that's when I realized that there's conclusions that you have to just walk to. You have to just arrive to. And no one can push you to it. As a matter of fact, the more you're pushed, sometimes you resist. You push back a little bit because you're like, no, I'm not ready to go that fast yet. So that's when I just allowed myself to go through the scenarios, and then that's what led up to what so far was like the worst couple of days, because that was that kind of breaking of like, okay, she's not coming back, but that was good. Like that after those, it was like 2 days of this, like of just being at so far I would call it a 10. After that, I was able to pick up a little bit and to start to move forward, and so I think that was probably the most valuable advice I got. And I think that's what I realized about bargaining, is that it's just because it's kind of irrational or doesn't mean that you need to resist it or not do it. It's a part of the process. Your brain has to work all this out.
Yeah. Oh, it's such an important piece of the process to just let it be. Yeah. And that resistance, to that knee-jerk reaction to say to someone, well, they're in a better place. Right. They're all around you. Or, I mean, we know there's so many in that, list of, but just having the space to say, I know. Yeah. It sucks. It just sucks. Yeah. And I think the one of the core reasons in having these conversations is for there to be a smaller gap between those who grieve and those who are grief adjacent, right? And so those that haven't gotten it yet because the blessing of their life so far is they haven't met yet that big loss, right? Yeah. And so if we're trying to position folks to be in community and to love each other and to not widen the gap but decrease it, these are the important conversations for someone to have that aha moment of, let me not say that, because I don't want to drive that person away. I want that person to get closer to me. And I'm so glad that your father did that for you, and that you are giving others permission to do it for each other as well. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I want to share this social media clip, and I want your thoughts on it, because as I revisited it reminded me so much of your journey, not in the comparing grief, but just in what was said. I feel as though you would have a lot of wisdom to pair with it. So this is from, if you all are familiar with Tim in the Basement, he speaks about grief a lot. He lost his father, and I love listening to him, and I want to share it now and offer it up in our conversation. So let me go to it.
Bitter roots only get deep when grief work is not done. I'm gonna say it again. Bitter roots only get deep when grief work is not done. If those roots don't go down, then no bitterness will come up. But if those roots get really deep down, you're going to be a very bitter soul. And I'm telling you, you have to face the pain of your grief. You cannot run from it. You cannot repress it. You should not suppress it. You have to name what it is. If you're hurt, if you're confused, if you're angry, if you're shocked, if you're mad, if you're disappointed, if you feel betrayed, put language to all of that. You're feeling it, but your body needs to also hear it. Your mouth needs to acknowledge what your body is feeling. Therefore, you can heal. But if you leave all that down, if you suppress all of that, it's going to pop up when you least expect it, and it's going to be ugly.
That's a word. So what resonates for you? What comes up for you with that clip?
Yeah, a lot of things. I mean, I've written maybe 60% about, like, some stuff I do keep private, but that's part of what my wife was struggling with and going through. What was that and it wasn't even that she was actively suppressing. That's what she knew was you do what you got to do. And, you push this down. And so her body was really, really upset with her for that. I mean, that's part of that. The other thing is, it is true what he said about naming it, even if, because what I found is there's still a lot of anger and there's still things that I'm dealing with. Being honest about where I am, even if I can't deal with it right now. So being as honest as you can. Be like, for instance, my mom and dad. So when we're talking, they started talking about other losses that happened 20 years ago. Like my Uncle Tim. And I remember I was a kid when he died, but we were very close. He wasn't even our blood uncle. He was just a very close friend, and he was one of my dad's co-producers. They worked together a lot, and he realized in us talking about Olga that for him, there's some stuff that he was still really mad about that he hadn't let go of from that death, and so he's bringing that up to me. And so sometimes you don't even know what you're suppressing, or sometimes it's just not time. Like I think about Joseph. With his brothers, right? Joseph's the one in Genesis where his brother sold him into slavery, and he was in slavery, and then he got accused for sexually assaulting someone that he didn't. He got thrown in jail, all that stuff, and then he wound up becoming like the prime minister of Egypt, and he named his two sons Ephraim and Manasseh, which means Ephraim is I forgot about the pain of my brothers, and Manasseh means God's caused me to be fruitful, I think, or one or the other, but that's what they both mean. He was very deep about it. Like, whatever my brothers did, I'm fine, and God has blessed me. I think he was genuinely in that place until his brothers showed up because of the famine, and they didn't recognize him because it's been so many years. And all of a sudden, for Joseph, it was like, ooh, I'm going to get all of them. It was like, for him, I think he really thought he was okay. It wasn't even that he was pushing it down. He was like, look at how blessed I am. I'm top of the top in Egypt, and I'm advising the Pharaoh, and I'm doing all this stuff, and we're wealthy, and my kids are healthy. And I think that's kind of the same thing for us, is that you have to be as honest as you can, but you also have to trust that you also have to be as honest as you can, and also name things as they come, knowing that maybe I can't deal with it now, or even God even knows you're not ready to deal with this. But like you said, like you were saying earlier, there's an obedience that's there, that when God does bring those things up, that means it's time for you to deal with it, no matter how painful. So I know that this is a long journey for me. I mean, when my dad said that, I was like, Lord, am I going to have to deal with this 20 years from now? You know what I mean? Like, goodness gracious. Like, right. But, he's like, well, yeah, I mean, there's layers to this. You were married to this woman, you have two beautiful children, and she died. And it was, even though I was by her bedside when she passed, I didn't know she was going to die. It was still very sudden. And so it does feel like a movie that just got turned off before we got to see anything. So there's so many unresolved feelings that, I mean, that could mean that, maybe in a couple of years I'm remarried and all that stuff. And then God brings up something else from that, and I'm like not looking forward to those moments, but I know that he does it in his timing to properly heal us. So and otherwise that, and then when we resist that, then that's when the bitterness takes place, because now it's time for you to deal with your anger. No, I don't want to do that. I'm not angry. I'm fine. Okay, well then that's how your body gets sick. That's how you start acting out. I had a moment with the boys about 3 months ago, and it was between me and Olga, I was the stricter parent. She was the more she was more nurturing, and even though like our public things were opposite, she was a very like intense speaker and all that stuff, but home wise it was just different, and so it's always been that way. But when I had an exchange with the boys where they were fighting with each other, and just the timing of everything, I snapped. I yelled at them, but it wasn't even, it was a really, I remember too, I still remember I'd like slammed the door, like my fist in it. And it's funny, my second born, nothing really phases him, so he didn't really care. He was like, okay, can I have a snack? Like, and it's just, I don't know about second borns. Like,
it's like, they're just like, they're gangsters. Like,
they are.
Like, and
okay, great. Can I have a banana?
Really?
Like, is that? I'm like, Judah, can you at least like? But my oldest started crying, like silent tears, because for him, he doesn't. You don't really need to get that stern with Ezra. He's a lot like his mom. He wants you to be happy, and then that's when I realized in that moment I was like, okay, you really kind of flew off the handle there, and so I had to like get down on their level, and I was like, you guys, Daddy really misses Mommy, and I'm sorry. Like, I really am sorry. And, you know, I started crying and everything, and then they gave me a hug. And that's when I realized that I have to kind of play the role of both parents right now. So like, there has to be that grace side. Okay, what would Olga say in this? Okay, let me pull it back a little bit. And all that to say, so that kind of stuff could happen if you don't deal with whatever it is you're supposed to deal with. Then that's when you start to whether lash out or it affects you internally. So yeah, I agree. I mean, that's 100%. The bitter roots, they'll run deep especially if you miss that timing. If you resist whatever deeper work. Which, like I said, for Olga, it wasn't even that she would resist it. It wouldn't compute. We would have conversations where we would get to like we'd like broach the surface of something, like her previous marriage, and she would make a comment, and I'd be like, "Oh, I've never heard you say that before," and we'd start to talk about it, and then she would shift the subject, and that would happen a lot. And so I go, "Okay, well, we'll it's fine. We'll talk when you're ready. It's all good, But I understand now because I get it. There was a lot that she was either grieving or still processing. And I think she just didn't feel like she had the tools. And I could see some of it, obviously, now with what I'm going through. I feel like I understand her more. Like if she was here, maybe we could talk more. But I did what I could to try to help her walk through it. But there was a lot of layers, and there's still layers there that I'm learning or just kind of processing, as I'm going through this grief.
Yeah. And in due time, right?
Yeah.
Like God will make that transition for us in his timing, and it will be, when it happens, it'll be like, oh, you wanted me to get this now.
Right.
Absolutely. And even in terms of what you were sharing about Olga's mind body, I'm going to call it struggle, right? Like good. For me, I remember, and I don't know where I first heard this, that what the mind forgets, the body remembers. And we store so much of that trauma or pain or loss and grief inside of our bodies to the point that we don't even know that it's working in the back processing. Right. And so like even recently for me, and this going through what I did with my daughter and her health and the ups and downs, and then not knowing that I was holding on to grief of the last time I was in a hospital was with my mom, and that connection that didn't make it to my brain, but it was in my gut. It was in my heart. And then what the devil does is he tries to spin that spindle, because we know that he is a natural at lies. So it's like, no, it's not the grief, and it's not anxiety. It is actually a heart attack. It is actually you have stomach cancer. Like
you're going to die. Like that's
it always. Why does it always end and you're gonna die?
You're gonna die, and you're gonna die. It's true.
And you're gonna die. Like, there's no other way to play. So all of that, and it took my aunt. My aunt Elizabeth, shout out to her, because I am her namesake. Like my middle name is Elizabeth because of her. But she said, you face this, because yes, it's anxiety. Yes, it's all of these things, but you also are still grieving. Like you're grieving the fact that you can't call your mom and talk to your mom about this really big, scary thing that's happening with your daughter. Like deal with that too. Continue to take that out. And in the moment I want to say, well, look, I am Mrs. Grief. Like I have a podcast about grief. Like what more can I bring to God about grief? But she was exactly right that there was so many layers on top of what was going on, or even under the surface of what was going on, that still routed back to grief, and was still like, man, I want to know what my mom would say about 7-year-old me. Did I struggle with headaches? What was it like? I know that I was in a car accident when I was about 6 or 7. Oh, wow. And it broke my femur. And I wish I could go back and talk to my mom about like, man, what happened when you pulled up on the scene? Because she wasn't in the car with me. When you pulled up on the scene and they were taking your baby away in that ambulance, like what kind of anxiety came for you? How did you handle that? And so I've had to actively replace that question for her. And I keep a notebook. I keep a notebook of questions for my mom that I pray that when the time comes for me to meet her again, that in some form or fashion, because like you said, God can do anything. In some form or fashion, I want to be able to like take that notebook with me and ask all my questions.
Yeah.
But I've had to replace that conversation, not just with her, but of God. Like, God, give me the wisdom for today, because maybe that wisdom I wasn't supposed to have yet when we were going through what we were going through. But today, give me an ounce of wisdom that helps me get through this moment right now.
Absolutely.
And reconnects my mind to my body and follows my spirit, because my spirit knows like it's all going to be okay.
Yes.
But my body was not listening at all.
It's that is a powerful, I mean, that is, you know, she lost her mom again, 2 years before she passed. So it was very similar to you. And so there was all of that going on top of exactly that. She would be like, I have no idea what's going on, which looking back, some of it probably was anxiety. Some of it probably was anger, and she couldn't, her brain wasn't processing it. So she was just like, I'm just not feeling well. I don't know. You know, I just don't know. There's something you said too, that it was you said, I'm trying to remember. Yes. So yeah, that's one thing that I'm not looking forward to. I haven't been inside of a hospital since. So it's been, I went one time, I had to take Judah, my 4-year-old, to like it was urgent care, but it was just for something minor, you know. It was very calm, and everyone's like, it was fine. But driving up to that place still, I was like, okay, I realize I have been to a hospital, and that's not something I'm looking forward to. There are still, she, the fact that she just wasn't fully herself in those last days. That's something I'm still like kind of dealing with now, that, you know, I actually, last night I was just saying that, like, I didn't even get to have the full her, you know. She was gone, and then when she came back, she was already struggling, you know. That first day she was normal, and then they had treatments, and then it kind of had a lot of side effects. And so it feels like the ending just feels so weird. Like I've been seeing a lot of God's nature in our 7 years of marriage, which for me, whenever something significant happens, I'm curious on what date does it fall on the Hebrew calendar, because that's the biblical calendar. I always want to see how things line up, because very similar thing happened with my dad's parents, where they died 10 years apart to the day, but on the Hebrew calendar was on very significant. It was just really, really crazy. So So a few hours after she died, I looked it up. I said, what day did we get married? So the day that day was the 6th of the month. It's called Tevet, Tevet. And I said, I was just curious. I never knew what day we got married on that calendar. So let me see what day. The 6th of Tevet, we got married. 7 years to the day, almost to the hour, she died. And I was like, okay, wow. So there's something here that you're saying, Lord. Like I can't even say, oh, I know what he's saying. I just know that those are just markers of, like, this is not some random occurrence. You know, you didn't fall out of grace. You didn't fall out of favor with me. This is not some, like you said, you're not going to die. Because that was the anxiety. Like, okay, are my sons going to die? Am I like, what's happening, Lord? Like, what? He's like, this is all it. I know it hurts, but this does not fall out of my control. Like, it's okay. And you'll get those answers, and some answers you won't get, but you'll get what you need. That has guided me through those intense times of anxiety. And like I said, and I know that the challenge is going to be to lean on that in those moments. Like, it's likely someone's going to be in a hospital, you know what I mean? And I'm going to have to visit. Like, that's just going to happen. And so still trusting God in that, you know, nothing is out of his control, you know, really nothing. He's the only one who has literally everything under control. And you know, so that's some of that has helped. Some of that has helped for sure.
Yeah. And I offer you this for when that time comes, because there's anticipatory grief, right? Like you're almost like holding, and again, God wants us to give it completely to him.
Yeah.
My husband told me, because when we were kind of awaiting some of the test results and all this, and I'm thinking, what if she has a tumor? What if she's having seizures? All these kind of things. And he shared something with me in saying that, like, if that, right, when that time comes, God will give you what you need to handle it then. But we're not gonna future cast that worry, because we don't know that yet. Like, I know you like to plan, I know you live in the anxious world, but let's wait on God. Right?
Yes.
Let's wait on God.
It's not a grocery store where it's like, let me buy a couple of these things, just in case, Lord.
Just in case.
Just in case. Let me
get some future grace. Let me get some future wisdom. It doesn't. That's why they call it daily bread.
Right. Absolutely. Yes.
It's daily.
Yes.
Daily. He'll sit with us daily. He's patient with us daily. And if that day comes, he will give you exactly what you need. He's not gonna give you tomorrow's strength today, because he knows you couldn't even handle it. You couldn't operate in the energy that you need and the strength that you need for tomorrow. So he's gonna hold it for you.
Yeah.
How much he loves us, that he's gonna hold it for us until we actually need it.
Absolutely.
That's love. That's his love abound.
Absolutely.
So yeah. We could talk for hours.
We really could. I really appreciate this.
We might have to have a round two.
I have to say, this is, I've done a few of these. I've only done 2 of these since Olga passed, but even before that, and I don't always feel as comfortable, as I feel now sharing. Even when I share our stories, sometimes it's kind of clunky and I forget things. So thank you for facilitating a space like this, because I feel very comfortable.
God is good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I do want to touch on your music, because man, oh man, the healing that takes place and just listening to you, because y'all, he is a musician, he is a singer, he is all the things, he's a composer. You are a composer, and I know that you were in that space previously, right? Before all of this happened, that was and is you, right? And so even when we go back to that social media clip and it talks about giving your grief a voice, I want to know, how has that voice shifted and changed in the now, and how important has music and what you do and this gift that God has given you, how important has that been to lean into that and not draw away from it?
It's music, was my first love. I mean, even before I met Olga, when I was a little boy, my parents said that I fell in love with Beauty and the Beast. And after we watched the movie, when we got home, I played maybe I was 5 or 6. I picked out the melody to the opening, the epilogue or whatever, when the narrator is telling the story.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I don't remember this, but it's still my favorite piece in the whole movie. They said I figured out how to play that little melody on the piano. And as far back as I can remember, I've always wanted to write film scores. So that's why I loved orchestras. I loved any Star Wars, Aladdin, Stuart Little, Toy Story, anything with the orchestras. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the most beautiful thing in the world. I want to do that. So went to college for composition. And was going to go to grad school for film scoring, but my senior recital, you're supposed to do an orchestra piece, but then a part of my recital, I had an orchestra fuse with the band I had at the time. And after that performance, I was like, I want to do this. This is something else. And I've been chasing that ever since, working for other artists, doing stuff for myself. And for me in this time of grief, what's interesting is, in terms of the music, the mechanics of everything, nothing has really changed musically, because I've always kind of leaned into music in every stage of my life. It just naturally happens. And so the sound is definitely different. The lyrics are different. I just released a single called Young Man, Old Man, and it's a very short single, and submitted it to the Grammys, really hoping that something happens this year, praying for that.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And just really trusting God for that, because it's but in terms of just that whole, for the first couple of months, there was no creativity at all. And I honestly didn't know if I was going to do music. And I was letting my engineer know and a few more musicians. I was like, hey guys, I canceled all my stuff for the next few months and I really don't know when I'm going to do this again. And it wasn't until shortly after that, it was like a fire hydrant turned on and stuff just started coming out and coming out. And, we had 3 ceremonies for Olga. And she was buried in Israel. We had a ceremony in South Africa. And then our last one was in Charlotte. And before the Charlotte one, I had start to finish completed this whole song called The End of Time. And I'm working on that one now. It's going to come out soon. And I remember when I was trying to work on it at first, I just kept crying. I was like, I can't even write this song. This is too much. But just before the memorial, I finished it and I did it at the memorial. After the memorial, things just opened up. And that's when Young Man, Old Man was written. That's when other songs that I wrote for her. There's a song I wrote before she passed that I told her I'll show you when we get home. It was a song of healing. It's this very East African sounding tune, and it has different languages in it. And I never got to show her, but that song kind of came back to my remembrance. And so now music has been a vehicle, and it's been healing in some ways, but also I see it as I can't remember the exact chapter or verse, but I know you have to help me. I think it's in Ephesians. But we are living epistles, Yeah. And I see myself as like I'm a book that, with all this pain, I want people to be able to look at my story and it help answer some questions for them about grief, about loss, about like what we talked about the things that led to her death. Like it's not all a mystery. It's not like, oh, one day she just died and I just have to live with that forever. It's like, well, no, there are some principles here that I've been able to pick up, that I've shared, like I said, some of those things. And so in the music, I want that too. I want people to see that there's still a purpose. If you're still on this earth, then you have a purpose. Even in your pain, there's still a purpose. And, I still, like Olga always used to say, that she was living her life for the applause of heaven. She always said that. And so that's still where I am. I'm like, I still want to go to heaven and have people be like, hey, there he is right there. That's the man. You know what I mean?
Yes, he kept going.
He kept going. Like, yeah. And so with that, it's, even it's not just about how you feel about things. Sometimes you have a mission and you have an assignment and you really don't, you'd rather be doing something else. But that doesn't change the importance of your impact on this earth. And so, yeah, the music now it's just gone a lot deeper now. There's a deeper, it's like a life support for me at this point. It was one of my life supports. It's like breathing, Before it was a lot of fun and it was a passion, but now just like being with my sons, it's almost like that. It helps me to breathe, to let things out, to perform, to sing. I've even noticed musical stuff, like just my voice feels different and sounds different. And I thought it was just me. And then some of my close friends were like, you're coming from a deeper place, and there's a resonance that's there. And so I'm like, okay, Lord, if you use me in that way, that's great, And if I have to just kind of carry this pain, and walk through this grief, and, I trust that I won't be like this forever.
Right.
But if this is my portion right now, then her death has to mean something. It has to be for something. It can't just be a sad thing that happened. Like, there has to be something that you want me to do in that. And so I'm trying to, with music, especially, trying to my best to walk in that. Yeah.
I love it. And we will link to all of the songs and everything that we can, because more people have to hear this.
Thank you, Kelly.
You mentioned too, and I wanted to touch on that Olga had 3 different services. And to me, when I first read that, I'm like, wow, what a life, what an impact, even across nations, know? And then when I started reading just about her advocacy work and the things that she was doing, and I'm like, man, those gifts, those talents, what spiritually she must be doing now in the spiritual realm, like rocks my world. And, just from the sense of that she was connecting Israel, she was connecting Africa, she was connecting Black America in these messages of connection and cultural resonance. I want to know from you, even in experiencing memorials in those very three different places.
Yeah.
How has grieving across these cultures shaped your perspective of how the world mourns? And know that's a heavy question, but from your layer of perspective,
Absolutely.
what does that unity and grief look like even across cultural landscapes?
That's a great question. It is. It was very similar, first of all, to her mom. When her mom passed, there was one service in South Africa, but people flew in from all over the place. So I know that that's something that would mean a lot to her if she was here, that so many people came out to honor her. And yeah, in terms of grief, I'm really glad that it happened in the order that it happened. And it wasn't even, we never talked about where we're going to bury her or anything. We struggled at first. I thought that we would have her buried in South Africa. And I brought it to her family, and ironically enough, my father-in-law said, "Well, culturally that doesn't really make sense because she had a family in America, like she was married to you and she had 2 kids, so she should really be buried in Charlotte." And then immediately I was like, "No, that doesn't make sense to me. We only been in Charlotte for 5 years. This is strange. Like I'm probably gonna move, and if I move in 5 more years, her body's just gonna be here in North Carolina." And so we had an impasse, and I remember we all had a family meeting at my parents' house, and then I said, "Okay, we'll finish talking about this tomorrow." And I was driving home with my brother-in-law, who also is named Joshua, and I said, and I almost didn't say it, and God left just enough silence, and I said, "I thought about Israel a couple times, but I don't know, it seems kind of ridiculous, right? It's kind of crazy." And he was like, "With all the work that she did, actually, that makes a lot of sense." And so I called one of her best friends, who lives in Israel, and within 48 hours it was done. And she talked to the president's office, the prime minister's office, like they went all the way up. And not only was it a blessing, but the president of Israel came and gave his respects to us while we were in our friend's house in Israel. And he knew my dad, he knew her dad, and her friend told me, she said, one of the things that made it go really quickly was because of what your dad does. Like a lot of people know who your dad is. And so, and I'm really glad that we had the ceremony there because it just was pure mourning. Like Jewish people know how to mourn, unfortunately. You know what I mean? And culturally, I found that it's been much easier to be in this place with my Jewish friends than a lot of, not all, but a lot of my Christian friends. And it's not because, look, I love the Lord, I'm a Christian, but just in this place, Jewish people know how to sit in mourning, and so that's what it felt like. It just felt like everyone was just there to honor Olga. I thought it was going to be maybe 20. It was about 200 people there, and everyone who was there to help us, help the family, whatever we needed, and to honor Olga. And so for me, that was the best way to start it because I felt like I could just mourn, and then. Having in South Africa, the South African one was long. It was about, everyone wanted to speak. It was like 5 hours, but it was still to see that sea of people because her dad's church is pretty big, but it was overflowing. People flew in from some people who couldn't make the Israel one flew from Israel to South Africa, to honor her.
Wow.
And that one I could just participate. I told my brother-in-law, like, you guys go ahead and do what you need to do. If you need me to sing or something, just let me know. And then the Charlotte one I planned, myself. And I said, that's the only caveat. So if you do that one, I get control over the Charlotte one because I know how she would want us to worship and I know how she would want us to do it. And so put together a big choir, had a praise team, had my sisters sing, had all my musicians from different parts of the country fly out and it was just worship. It was just worship. And, and in terms of that, that one really felt like we were giving people permission to feel whatever they were feeling. Some people, I had a friend who came who was mourning her mom still, similar. Her mom died a couple months before Olga did. And so at the beginning of that ceremony, we told people, look, whatever it is that you're also, we're not the only people grieving. But you have permission to, yes, this is a celebration of her life. But if you don't feel like celebrating, you can cry. You can, you can cry. You can sit. You don't have to stand up. You can stay seated, whatever. But just know that you have that freedom because this sucks. We're not going to act like, we're not going to act like we're happy that she's gone. We're not. but I do know that she would want us to worship. And sorry, one more thing about that, if I can share.
Oh my gosh, yes, please.
I up until that point, you know, because I do believe that your loved ones visit you in your dreams. I really do believe that. And up until that point, I had not had any dreams about Olga, and I was getting very upset. I was really getting angry about it. And I remember about a month after that memorial, I have 5 sisters. My second to youngest sister, she texted the family and she said, I had a dream about Olga. Olga came and talked to me. At first I was mad. I was like, why are you visiting my sister and not me? Like, first of all, but whatever. We'll talk about that later. Like, and she said, Olga, I had a dream about her that she showed up at the memorial in Charlotte. And while everyone was worshiping, she and I were looking at everything. And she just kind of popped up and I was like, oh, hey, Olga. And she looked at me and she said, you know, they talked and they hugged. And then she said, but she told me that she would come and visit Joshua when he was calm enough to receive her. And at that point, I hadn't told her that I was mad. That was just something I was keeping inside. So she was like, yeah, I don't know that. She just said that she'll visit you when you're calm enough to receive her. That was a few days after I had a dream that she was right next to me and I wouldn't even look at her. Like I kept, like, we were in a meeting and she kept looking at me and I just kept looking this way because I was like, how dare you leave us? So when my sister said that, I said, okay, Lord, okay, all right, I get it, I get you, I get you,
I get it.
It took about a month before I really had it's like a conversation with her when I was sleeping, and but it was interesting because, you know, she was like outside of time, so that was at that memorial. She was watching it and talking to my sister. But also I was glad that she was there to see it, you know, because we did all her favorite stuff. We did some South Africa stuff. We did some, you know, she loved gospel. She loved American gospel stuff, you know, so we just worshiped. I was like, that's the main agenda is we're going to worship. You know, we got Christians in here. We got Jews in here. We going to worship. Listen, y'all, like I grew up in church, you know, we serve the Lord, we serve Jesus, and we're going to worship. So yeah. So for that last one, that one felt, it was fun in terms of just all the music and everything. But I'm glad that the first one was in Israel because it was like we kind of set a precedent of mourning and grieving,
yes,
and acknowledging that she's gone, you know, and laying her body to rest. Like it was just a really beautiful way to do it.
Yeah, and I love that because even, you know, it rises above the drama.
Yes.
The business of dying, all the other things that you can pull down that is affluent in our community. It's just like, it's just us. We're the vessels of this praise, of this worship, and there's something just really pure and unique about that. That I love that you had the chance to experience it in that way, and even, you know, that nod of, you know, her being there and witnessing it alongside you. I love that. And what you were saying about dreams. So here's a prayer for you to get. I haven't dreamed of my mom yet, and I've even said, like, you have visited everybody else in the family.
Right,
like, I mean, down to my 4-year-old, my 7-year-old. My 7-year-old at that time, she was 5'6". So it's like, and she picked her first, and I think that's because she was her favorite grandchild. Right. Nothing against my youngest, but like she had the bond with her. She had that bond. And there was a night that Zoe told us that, you know, that next morning she said, Mommy Nana was at the end of my bed and she was blue. She was light blue. And she said to me, long time no see. And so like, that is something like my mom would say, you know, that's like kind of like an older person would say. And we had never said that to Zoe. So I knew like
that was her for sure.
She was here. She was here, you know, and then subsequently like my husband dreamed of her. Ava, my youngest, dreamed of her. I'm like, okay, so you're
Mom.
Just making your rounds, like school or whatever. I've just been with you for all of my life. I'm a child. It was just me and her. So I'm like, come on, what is going on? And so the fact that you say, you know, that Olga would visit you when you're ready to receive, I hold to that hope and that encouragement that my mom will visit me when I'm ready to receive. And I want to have that moment. I crave for that moment, and I'm like, Lord, let any of my flesh or ego fall away, that I just purely want to I know she's okay, right? But like, I want to, let me see her.
I want to see her still. Like, can I talk to her for a second? Like,
Right.
yeah,
Like, just for
yeah.
a second.
Just,
Like, my
right.
youngest is 4, and she asked me the other night, she's like, Mommy, can we call heaven? Like, can we call
Those are the
heaven? And I was
questions.
like,
Yeah.
no, baby, it doesn't work that way. She said, but
Right.
have you tried? And I was like,
Oh, but I got your kids and my kids
babies.
are very similar. Yep. Yeah.
oh gosh, they should spend some time together because
Right.
the questions that they have, and I
Right.
don't know about you, but they come at just the most random of times.
Yeah,
I might not
yeah.
even be thinking about my mom in that
Yes,
moment. And
yes.
then they'll just like
Right.
they'll just say, man, I didn't even get a chance to say goodbye. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait,
yeah.
what are you talking
What
about?
are
You're
you?
talking
Right.
Don't take me there right
Right.
now. We're in the middle of the
I was
grocery
doing fine.
store.
Exactly. Right. I'm just trying to get some chicken pot pie and take
Right.
it home. Like, please, this is not what it's like. Oh man, no, yeah, you're right. You're right.
You gotta let the babies live.
Yeah, they got to let them. Ezra did that to me. He said, we were driving, and he said, he hadn't dreamed about her yet. He said, I want to dream about mommy so I can give her a hug and tell her goodbye. That's what he said. And I went, I was doing okay that day. I really was. I was doing okay that day, but I was like, well, that's it for me. That's all.
Yeah, pack it up. Go
yeah,
home.
that's it. Right. Let's go home. The day's over. Like, yeah. So,
Man.
wow. I hear you. And I think it's a deep thing. It's like you were closest to her. So there's just, I think it's probably, you're just on a longer journey because of that. I think,
Yeah.
I'm not that they weren't close, but I think maybe
right.
they're just, they were able to move a little quicker through it. And so now they can,
Yes.
whatever,
I believe that.
it is, because there's a lot of other, I'm sure there's a lot of emotions for you attached to that. Like when my grandma died, I was just sad, but my wife emotions go haywire. I mean, a few days ago, I was just mad all day. I was angry. I was just like a lot of people, and I was just kind of like this, that, and I'm sure that's part of, it's nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong. I think it's just, you're on a journey and it just takes longer. My grandmother, I didn't see until about 10 years after she died. And I was her favorite grandson. I know I was. I'm sorry for my cousins who are listening, but I was her favorite.
Guys.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I call her all the time. I'd sing to her over the phone, and we were very close. And as a matter of fact, I've only had 2 dreams about her. And the second dream I had about her was when my wife was alive, was last year. And I wrote it down. We were all in a room together, my family and everything. She walks through a door, and I knew that it's her. I'm dreaming. I said, "Oh my gosh, this is Grandma!" I gave her a hug, and I was like, "Ezra and Judah, come meet your grandmother or your great grandmother." And then now I'm telling you, I wrote it down, and I only remember this because I wrote it down. I said, "Where's Olga?" I was like, "Olga, where?" And then I felt this reassurance. God said, "It's okay. She's fine. Don't worry about her. Just have your boys meet the grandma." This was like March or January of last year. So, and I only remember that Olga wasn't there because I found it, because I texted to the family. I found that text. I was looking for something else, and I wrote there, I couldn't find Olga for some reason, but God told me that it was okay. And I forgot about that. But my second time seeing Grandma, it felt like now it's like some sort of foreshadowing about maybe Olga's already over there with, you know what I mean? Like it was just such a weird thing.
And that time works different than our time.
Time is different up, right? Like, yeah, it's just, it's crazy. So anyway, yeah. She will come and see you.
Thank you.
She will come and see you. And I'm sure that she's been somewhere and you just like, before you turned around, you woke up, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
But I hear
believe
you.
that. I received that.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. Okay, before I let you go, I have some rapid fire questions for you. And we keep them fun, a little bit of grief, it's a mixed bag, just like it. Grief. It's just, that's
Absolutely.
it. Okay,
No,
so
totally.
a song that's not your own that brings you comfort right now.
Okay, it's called Crying, Laughing, Loving, Lying by Labi Siffre. Yeah, it's an old song, but I love it so much.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have a Spotify playlist. It's called Grieve and Heal from the previous season. Shout out to my composer of music for the pod. His name is Jeffrey Smith. We put together a playlist, so we're going to add that to the playlist. And then also, if you are on Spotify, we're going to add your music to that playlist as well. So we will make it all connect.
Fantastic.
Okay, next question. A word your boys use that instantly makes you laugh and smile.
A word they use, quite. Quite. My youngest son now says, I'm quite itchy. I'm quite itchy. That's his mom. That's his mom, hands down. So I'm like, what are you like? Yeah, so they're proper sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. A city or a country that holds the most meaning to you today? I feel like I might know what your answer might be, but where?
Israel, Haifa, because that's where she was born, but Jerusalem's always been, that's where I pray. That's wherever I go. So it's both of those cities right now.
I love it. Favorite family ritual you've created with your sons since your wife has passed?
Exercising. Exercise. It's been a newer thing, but my oldest loves to do it. So we do it in the living room. Resistance bands and push-ups, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's good. I love it.
Yeah.
A scripture, quote, or lyric you return to often that grounds you?
Genesis is the end of Genesis. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good, so that many people can be saved. The first part is always great, but the whole thing is just always what gets me is that there's a global purpose to God turning this around. There's a mission He has us on.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna look that one.
I know.
up.
I'm so bad at chapter and verses. I gotta.
No, that's okay. The food that tastes most like home to you.
Oh, the first fried chicken. My mom's fried chicken. Yeah. That's home for me.
Dream artist, alive or gone, that you'd love to collaborate with, and why?
Ooh, that's a lot. India.Arie. India.Arie, because her to this day, her concert changed my entire life, changed my sound. When we opened for her that year, 2012,
Woo.
Her set was it was acoustic. It had this cinematic element. Some songs were just hauntingly beautiful. The way she approached them all, I was like, I've been chasing that sound just from that one concert. And we had a connection at her show. You know, she had me sing with her for a second from the audience. And I remember that forever. So yeah, that would be a dream to do something with her. It really
Well,
would
we're
be.
going to tag her in the comments.
Please do.
We're going to get this going.
Please.
It's not going to be a dream deferred. It's going to be a dream realized for sure, for sure.
Absolutely.
And she is amazing.
No, she is
amazing.
Amazing.
What is a bitter root that you have to work daily to prune?
There's a couple, but I think the one that I will share is the one that I will share is the last. It's like the last argument we had in person was about her leaving, and even though I really do understand the need, this compulsion to help your family. I mean, honestly, I would have probably done the same thing. To be honest, I know I probably done the same thing. Even if I wasn't feeling well, if that was really required of me. But that's something pretty daily when I think about, there's still anger there, and I have to talk through it. You know, that's what I have to do the most. And sometimes I cry through different aspects of it, and that's been helping me, because I compare that to her last few days in the hospital. And right now those memories keep falling on top of each other. Like that conversation on the couch, and then me seeing her not being able to stand
Replay.
up. And it's like back and forth and back and forth. So that's what I have to, whenever it comes, I just try to just face it. Like, okay, yeah, that's the reality. That's what happened, you know? But yeah, that's a bitter root for sure. Yeah.
And I love your permission to sit in it and to meet it instead of push it down or push it out. And I think that's a lesson that I want. That's a gem that I want people to catch for sure.
Yeah.
Because that's powerful. My last two questions, and I ask this of everyone.
Yeah.
What has grief taken from you, and what has grief given you?
Grief has taken my former self from me. I look at pictures of us when she was alive, and sometimes I cry looking at myself. I'm like, I'm not that guy anymore. Like, and I miss that guy. Like, I was a little more innocent and unburdened by certain things, and I liked that about myself. And so this thing that's on me, I'm looking at myself, I'm like, yeah, those are two different guys. Like, so farewell to that guy. You know what I mean?
I've had the similar thought. Like, I'll say in pictures, and sometimes I know by the curve of my lips.
Right.
That
yes.
Mom has passed or has not.
Exactly.
Yet. And I'll say that girl doesn't know grief yet.
Nope.
Like,
he has no idea what's coming. Right. Exactly. Right. Just skipping through the meadows, like, wow, he has no idea the brick wall he's about to run into.
Wow.
You can, same thing. I can look at the picture. I don't have to look at the date. I go, no, this is before she died. And then what has grief given me? A deeper sense of the eternal. Like I want to live my life for the applause of heaven, and that's a more real thing now because she's there, and so the decisions that I make now. There's a different rubric in my head, different criteria now. Because it's all eternal now. It's like, I want to go where she went. I know that she's there. And so some of the petty stuff that I would get insecure about, a lot of those fears aren't there anymore. And I think that's part of why, no, they're not even part of the equation. It's like, what if people don't like me? Okay. Will you still see Olga? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. Like they cannot like me. I'm gonna do my thing. Like, I've been using this phrase a lot. The arc, I said, I feel like in this world that the arc doors are closing. And so for me now, my biggest priority is making sure me and my sons are on the arc. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And while I'm doing that, I'm saying, hey guys, come on this arc with us. We're going. Yeah. Let's go. But I'm not going to stop and try to pull you along. I'm just telling you, I'm getting on this arc. So you can follow me or you can stay right there. But, I know I'm not going to miss this. I'm not going to miss this boat, going off and when the rain comes. So that's where I've been. So it's given me a deep sense of the eternal.
I love that. Yes, I love that. Something I want you to share with your boys. And I always say to everyone, take what you need, leave what you don't. Whenever we're having a tough moment and we're missing Nana, my mom was Nana to my girls. I'll say, she's got a front row seat. And then they'll say, so let's give her a show. Right. And in that way, we're not making light of the grief. We're not saying everything is happy and all roses, but it's like, live. She wants us to live. She wants us to have a full life, and so does our Father. So let's get busy living. And even if living in that moment means to just let it out and let's cry. Yeah. And then when we get there one day, we'll say, do you remember that day that I lost my beep? And missed you so bad just from looking at your coffee mug? Like, that's the show. It's all for her to see and to understand. And that brings her more in to our experience. And I don't know if that's wrong or right or whatever, but that's what we feel. And that's a way that we feel it. We say, let's give her a show.
That's so good. I love that so much. I know I haven't done this yet, but I know the Jewish people have a tradition of you leave a chair open in your dining room table because that's the person that you lost. And I keep forgetting to do that. But lately the boys and I have been sitting at tables with 4 chairs, and immediately they'll go, Mommy's missing, Daddy. And they'll just say it very matter of fact, like, Mommy's missing. I want to do that. So even at shows, I think I would want to do that. Like actually buy a ticket for a seat and reserve it and be like, that's for her. Because front row. I love that so much. Thank you for that. That's great. Oh, thank you,
JoDavi. Thank you so much. In the moments we have left, please tell us, how can we support you? What is next for you? Like, how can this community be your community?
Thank you, Kelli. So I'm a traveling artist. I play everywhere. Go to JoDavimusic.com. You can see where I'm going to be. JoDavimusic.substack.com. I write a lot, and writing a lot about grief and just my life and lots of other things too. You can support me through that, and coming to the shows. I love meeting people. And I love connecting whenever I travel, especially now. The connection level is so much more deeper than it used to be. I mean, sometimes it's just random. Like at an airport, I just wanted to sit in that chair, and I sat there. And then me and this lady next to me, her boyfriend had just died a month ago, and it was really tragic. And all of a sudden, we had this hour, but there was nothing that she didn't say anything that made me look over there. It was just, I just felt like I needed to sit right here. I can't sit anywhere else but here, and boom. So that I just would love to connect with you. So I'll be in, I don't know when this airs, but I'll be in LA on the 28th of August, and then New York on the 4th of September, and then Charlotte on the 25th of September, and then Cary, North Carolina on the 18th of October. And then my last show is in Northern California, in Stockton, California on November the 8th, whatever that Saturday night is. And I would love to see you. And I hope working on coming out to Texas.
Yes.
Next
We
year,
will
got
make
some big
that
stuff
happen.
planned. Yes, we do need
Yes.
to. That we will. I would love to come, and I was just in Austin. Any excuse to come out to Texas. I was just in Austin a couple of weeks ago, and always love going there. So whenever I can, I'd love to come and see y'all.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going to make it happen. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your heart and just letting God use you. Like, I know people say that like kind of like cliche, let him use you, but you
Right.
actually are doing that in real time, and it makes so much of a difference. And there's a richness to your life that you are letting us witness, and I thank you for that. Thank you for
Kelli.
that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Y'all, this has been another episode. Take what you take what you need, leave what you don't, share it with someone that you think needs it the most. Much peace, much love from me and my special guest today. Thank y'all so much. Love and light. Thank you, JoDavi.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me inside today's episode of Grief in the Raw. I hope that something we've shared today both affirms how you feel and also provides you with healing towards your journey. Let's keep the conversation going. Visit kellyandco.com for more information about the show. Also, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, and follow the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Special thanks to Bethany Anderson, who is the producer of this podcast, and also Jeffrey Smith, who has been the composer for the music. Thank you so much again from the bottom of my heart. Peace and light always. Much love.